everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and today we're going to be talking about a very simple strategy that we can use to reduce the amount of anxiety and suffering that we experience in our life. As human beings, unfortunately, we are just very skilled at finding different ways to create suffering in our life, and this is something that I struggled with in the past without even realizing that I was doing it, but I was definitely and very consistently making my life a lot more difficult than it needed to be. And I know I'm not alone in this because I see the same habits and the same patterns in the majority of people that I meet. So today I wanted to share the mindset shift that deeply changed my life in hopes that it will deeply change yours as well. So starting at the beginning, despite what we may think we want out of life, all any of us really want is to feel at peace. We want to feel that we are doing well. We want to feel like we are okay inside. Sure, we may have different goals, we may have different dreams or different desires, and certainly we have preferences towards different outcomes, but at the end of the day, all we really want is to not be suffering, because if we are, everything else seems kind of pointless. We may think the motivation lies elsewhere, but if we really search our heart, we can see that most of the time that we are desiring something for our life, whether it be something that we do or something that we have, is because of how we think having or doing that thing is going to make us feel. We assume that it's going to make us feel better than we are feeling right now. But as we all know, we still experience a lot of suffering in our life, even when we get the things that we think we want, and especially when we do not get the things that we want. And somewhere along the line, many of us develop a fear of life not going exactly the way we designed it to go. We decide that our life needs to be this one way, and that all of these different things need to happen in order for our life to be happy. And it's true that we should be intentional with our life, and that we should try to design a life that we believe will be fulfilling and will make us happy. So really the problem is not with this part of the equation. The problem is that we make our happiness contingent on these things. And if and when these things do not happen, not only are we not happy, but we are also distressed. We experience anguish. And we don't just do this for major life events like wanting a certain career or hoping to get married or have children. We start to create a script for absolutely everything, even things that, if we were honest with ourselves, we would realize are completely insignificant. And the funny thing is that we start to create a script that the entire universe is expected to follow in order for us to be happy. So the script says that everyone has to be nice to us all the time, and the traffic has to move along at a fast enough pace, and our kids have to pose perfectly in every holiday photo. And if we just bothered to take a half step back, we would realize that absolutely none of these things are in our control. But instead of doing that, we just keep on getting upset every single time our life doesn't follow the script. And that's not our only problem. It really just kind of expands from there. Because once we realize that life is not following the script, we try to force it to. We start trying to control things that are not actually controllable because we are feeling so many negative emotions. We want them to stop. We think that if we can somehow fix what is happening in the external world is going to fix how we are feeling inside. So really the fatal mistake that we make when we experience suffering, whether it be the frustration of having a bank line that is moving too slow all the way to someone else getting a promotion that we think that we deserve, we start to try to desperately manipulate the things around us. And when we can't do that, we experience even greater suffering because instead of doing things that would actually make us feel better, we are placing all our energy on these external things that we cannot control. And something else that I was completely guilty of was creating these imagined future scenarios that I thought could potentially bring suffering to my life, and spending all of my time time and energy trying to prevent these specific scenarios from happening again, no matter how realistic they were or not. So I was constantly in a state of worry and anxiety, trying to control these things that probably were never going to happen in the first place. But the crazy thing is that in these situations, if we simply shift our focus to the internal, we can eliminate so much of our suffering, because it doesn't matter how much effort we put into designing our life to be a specific way or having a specific outcome. There are zero guarantees in life. And yes, maybe we can control some of the things in our life some of the time. And when we can, that's wonderful. That's great. But we certainly can't control all of the things all of the time. And therefore, we can't allow our happiness to be contingent on any of these things. But this is something that I definitely did not realize. So my strategy really was to try to control everything. I was so anxious and worried that outcomes that I didn't want to happen were going to happen, that I was constantly trying to micromanage everything in order to prevent certain outcomes. And even when I got what I thought I wanted, I never felt safe and I never felt happy, because I maybe felt relieved in that moment, but I was always looking over my shoulder. I was always just hyper vigilant and wanting to be sure that I was going to be able to prevent all the outcomes that I didn't want in order to feel happy. It was absolutely exhausting, and I absolutely never felt at peace. It wasn't until I got completely burnt out and made the connection that it wasn't anything in my external world that was going to make me happy or end my suffering. I realized that if I was going to stop fighting with life, I was going to have to find a way to feel better inside, despite what was happening in the external world. I needed to know that no matter what happened in my life, that I was going to be okay, that I could get through it. That no, we can't control everything in our life, but we can still be at peace. We can still find happiness despite things happening that we really would not have preferred. We cannot prevent every single wave from crashing into our life, but we can survive them. My whole world changed once I realized that we can control our internal environment, and that's something that we don't think about because we spend so much time and energy, again, focusing on trying to control things that aren't controllable and ignoring the one thing that we have 100% control over, which is ourselves. And that certainly doesn't mean that I have any less goals or dreams, or that I've given up, or that I let the waves of life just carry me wherever they want to take me. It's not that at all. I certainly have a specific plan for my life. However, when I feel that my life is going off script, I no longer collapse. I can deal with it. I know that no matter what is happening, as long as I can find a way to cope with them internally, then I'm going to be just fine. And sometimes the waves of life do take us in a direction that we don't want to go, but we realize once we get there that it was even better than what we had initially planned. So it's all about being open to life. Eventually, we have to come to the conclusion that it's our response to the situation that is more critical than the situation in and of itself, and really what determines whether or not we are going to experience suffering. We are human beings, and of course we're going to have strong emotions and strong reactions when things don't go the way that we want them to. That is absolutely natural. However, the degree of suffering that we experience really does come down to our response. So when things happen that are absolutely out of our control, instead of trying desperately to shove the toothpaste back into the tube and change what is absolutely unchangeable, we can focus our energy into trying to figure out what will best help and heal our inner world. Remember, two people can have the exact same experience, yet respond and react in completely different ways. So one person can be completely destroyed by the experience, whereas another person might be able to brush it off and feel very neutral about it. And I'm not saying that we should be a robot or we should ignore our feelings or deny the situation. What I am saying is that we do have a choice in the amount of suffering that we are going to experience. So what can we learn from all of this? Well, firstly, life is going to go off script sometimes, and that's okay. We may not like it, but but it will happen sometimes. And as long as we turn inward first when this happens and take care of how we are feeling inside and our internal environment, we're going to survive it. We're going to get through it. And from there, we're going to be able to respond in a way that is going to actually serve us. So my invitation to you this week is to really think about your internal world. How are you feeling? Is this a place where you do feel safe and secure? And if not, what do you need to feel more peaceful and to feel more resilient? Because remember, our internal world is really the only thing that we can control. But I do want you to also remember that although we can feel that life is scary sometimes or uncertain, that we've been able to get through every single curveball that has ever been thrown our way. We are still standing. We have survived absolutely everything. And there's no reason to believe that we will not survive everything that happens in the future. But when we have an internal world that feels safe and secure, it's going to allow us to feel a lot less suffering when these things do come to pass. So as always, I truly hope you found today's video to be helpful and insightful. And if you did, please like it, share it, and definitely become a subscriber if you aren't one already. I would absolutely love it if we stayed connected. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I hope the rest of your day is extraordinary.